The desert heat was unbearable that morning. Dr. Elena Rodriguez wiped sweat from her forehead as she carefully brushed sand away from what looked like ordinary rock. She had been working at this dig site in Chile's Atacama Desert for 3 months. Now and most days felt exactly like this one, hot, dusty, and full of disappointment. "Professor Rodriguez, you need to see this," called out Jake, one of her graduate students. His voice carried that special excitement that only came with real discoveries. Elena walked over to where Jake was kneeling beside a strange formation in the ground. What she saw made her heart skip a beat. The rock wasn't rock at all. It was some kind of crystal, perfectly smooth and translucent, like nothing she had ever seen before. "This can't be natural," she whispered, running her fingers along the surface. The crystal felt warm to the touch, which was odd considering it was buried deep underground where temperatures should be cool. The team worked for hours to uncover more of the structure. What they found changed everything Elena thought she knew about archaeology. The crystal formation was massive, about the size of a small room, and it seemed to pulse with a faint blue light from within. "Should we call the university?" asked Lisa, another student, her voice shaky with nerves. Elena stared at the crystal chamber. Through its translucent walls, she could make out a dark shape inside. At first, she thought it might be some kind of ancient artifact. But as they cleaned away more dirt and the crystal became clearer, Elena realized with growing shock that the shape looked human. "Nobody calls anyone yet," Elena said firmly. "We need to understand what we're dealing with first." That evening, as the team sat around their camp, the crystal began to glow brighter. Elena had set up cameras and sensors around it, trying to record everything. The temperature readings were going crazy, and her electromagnetic equipment was picking up signals that made no sense. "Professor, look at this," Jake pointed at his tablet. "The readings show some kind of life signs coming from inside that thing." Elena felt her stomach drop. "That's impossible. This formation has to be thousands of years old." But even as she said it, she knew something extraordinary was happening. The blue light inside the crystal was getting stronger, and she could swear she heard a faint humming sound coming from within. At exactly midnight, everything changed. The crystal began to crack with loud popping sounds that echoed across the desert. Elena and her team backed away as bright light poured out from the growing fractures. "Everyone stay calm," Elena shouted, though her own heart was racing. "Document everything, but keep your distance." The crystal split open like a flower blooming, releasing a wave of cool, fresh air that smelled like rain. Impossible in this dry desert. Steam rose from the opening, and Elena could see movement inside. What emerged from that crystal chamber was something that would haunt Elena's dreams forever. The figure was clearly not human, but it wasn't the monster she might have, expected from science fiction movies. Instead, it was beautiful in a way that made Elena's breath catch. The being was tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shimmer like starlight. Its features were similar to human features, but somehow more refined, more elegant. It wore what looked like armor, but the material seemed to flow like liquid metal across its body. The creature stumbled as it stepped out of the crystal chamber, clearly disoriented. It looked around at Elena and her team with large, dark eyes that held intelligence and confusion in equal measure. "Stay back," Elena warned her students, but she found herself stepping forward instead of retreating. Something about the being's expression reminded her of a lost child. The creature began speaking in a language that sounded like music mixed with whispers. Elena couldn't understand the words, but the tone was clearly distressed. The being was looking around frantically, as if searching for something. That's when Elena noticed the creature's armor seemed incomplete. There were empty spaces, like mounting points for equipment that wasn't there anymore. The being was clearly looking for something important that it had lost. Elena's mind raced back to the artifacts they had cataloged from around the dig site. One item in particular stood out. a strange, crystalline device about the size of a smartphone that they had found buried nearby. At the time, she had assumed it was just an unusual mineral formation. The creature's distress was growing more obvious by the minute. It began making gestures that Elena recognized as universal signs of searching and loss. Without thinking clearly, Elena made a decision that would change everything. She walked slowly to their equipment tent, her hands raised to show she meant no harm. The being watched her every movement with those incredible dark eyes. Elena retrieved the crystalline device from their artifact storage. As soon as the creature saw what Elena was holding, its entire body language changed. The distress faded, replaced by what looked like hope mixed with surprise. Elena approached slowly, holding out the device like a peace offering. "Is this what you're looking for?" she asked softly, knowing the creature couldn't understand her words, but hoping her tone would convey her peaceful intentions. The being reached out with graceful, long-fingered hands and took the device from Elena. For a moment, their fingers touched, and Elena felt a strange tingling sensation, like a mild electric shock. The creature examined the device carefully, turning it over in its hands. Elena expected it to activate the device immediately, but instead, something completely unexpected happened. The being looked at Elena with what seemed like profound sadness, then deliberately opened its hands and let the device fall to the ground. The crystalline object hit the sand with a soft thud. The creature looked directly into Elena's eyes and spoke slowly, carefully forming words in broken English that chilled Elena to the bone. I cannot." Those three simple words carried so much weight that Elena felt her knees go weak. Here was an obviously advanced being from somewhere beyond Earth, holding what was clearly some kind of important technology, and yet it was choosing not to use it. The creature's eyes filled with what Elena could only describe as tears, though they shimmered with an opalescent quality unlike human tears. In that moment, Elena realized that whatever this being was supposed to do with that device, something had changed its mind. As Elena stood there in the desert darkness, staring at this impossible visitor from the stars, she had no idea that this moment of trust and connection would soon determine the fate of every living thing on Earth. All she knew was that she had just witnessed something that would rewrite every textbook on human history. The creature continued to look at her with those deep, sorrowful eyes, and Elena got the distinct impression that it was trying to tell her something important, something that would explain why it had refused to use the device she had returned to it, something that would change everything. 3 days later, Elena found herself in a place she never imagined she would be, sitting across from an alien in a secure government facility somewhere in Nevada. The room looked more like a comfortable hotel suite than a prison cell, but Elena knew the thick walls and locked doors told a different story. The being, who had started calling herself Zara through their slow communication attempts, sat perfectly still in a chair that seemed too small for her tall frame. Her shimmering skin caught the fluorescent lights in ways that made Elena's eyes water if she stared too long. "Water," Zara said carefully, pointing to a glass on the table between them. It was one of the first English words she had learned, and Elena smiled every time she heard it. The pronunciation was almost perfect, though it carried a musical quality that no human voice could produce. Dr. Chen, the linguistics expert from MIT, looked up from his tablet. "She's learning at an incredible rate. Yesterday she knew maybe 10 words. Today she's attempting full sentences." Elena nodded, but her attention remained focused on Zara. Over the past few days, she had noticed changes in the alien's behavior. At first, Zara had been confused and defensive, like any creature trapped in an unfamiliar place. But now there was something else in her dark eyes, a sadness that seemed to grow deeper each day. "Zara," Elena said softly, "can you tell me about your home?" Zara's head tilted slightly. A gesture Elena had learned meant she was thinking hard about how to express something complex in simple English. Finally, she spoke. Home. Dying. Sky. Fire. No water. No green. She paused, searching for more words. My people. Scared. Need new home. The words hit Elena like a punch to the stomach. Through broken English and careful gestures, Zara was describing a world in its final days. Elena had suspected this wasn't a casual visit to Earth, but hearing it confirmed made everything more real and terrifying. Dr. Chen leaned forward. How many of your people, Zara? Zara held up her hands and began counting on her long fingers. When she ran out of fingers, she started over again and again. Elena watched with growing horror as Zara repeated the counting motion dozens of times. Millions, Elena whispered. You're talking about millions of people. Zara nodded gravely. All need home. All need live. That evening, Elena sat alone with Zara while the other researchers analyzed the day's recordings. The alien woman was staring out the small window at the desert landscape beyond the facility. You miss your home? Elena said. It wasn't a question. Yes, but Zara struggled with the words. Home in here now, too. She pointed to her chest, then to her head. Strange dreams while sleeping in crystal. Dreams not mine. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of dreams? Zara's eyes grew distant. Small human child laughing, woman singing to baby, man crying for dead friend. Love, fear, hope. She looked directly at Elena. Feelings I not understand before? The stasis chamber, Elena breathed. It somehow connected you to human consciousness in the area. Zara nodded slowly. Feel human, hearts while sleeping. No human joy. No human pain. Cannot hurt humans now. But that's why you're here, isn't it? Elena asked gently. To hurt us. For a long moment, Zara said nothing. Then she reached into a hidden pocket in her flowing armor and pulled out the crystalline device Elena had given her in the desert. She held it carefully, like something both precious and terrible. This weapon, Zara said quietly. Make Earth empty, clean for my people to live. Elena's blood turned to ice. Clean? You mean? Kill everything alive. Plants, animals, humans, all gone. Zara's voice broke slightly. Then my people come, make new home on empty world. That's genocide, Elena whispered. Zara looked confused. Genocide? Killing an entire species. Killing all humans. Yes, Zara said simply. Was my job. Wake up, use weapon, send signal to my people. She held up the device and stared at it. But I cannot. Human dreams in my mind. Human love in my heart. Cannot kill what I now understand. Elena felt tears building in her eyes. Here was a being from another world, programmed to destroy humanity, but changed by experiencing human emotion and connection. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. What happens if you don't complete your mission? Elena asked. Zara's expression grew darker. Other scouts, other weapons. They wake up soon. She held up 3 fingers. 3 more like me. But they not dream human dreams. They not change. They will do job I cannot do. Where are they? Different places. Far from here. When I not send signal, they know something wrong. They come looking. Zara looked at Elena with desperate eyes. They find me. They complete mission. All humans die. Elena's mind raced. How long do we have? Days. Maybe weeks. They are smart. They will find way. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Zara's words and what they meant. Somewhere out there, 3 more alien beings were waking up with planet killing. weapons and no human dreams to stop them from using those weapons. She thought about Zara's transformation, how exposure to human emotions had fundamentally changed who she was. The alien had literally experienced human love, loss, joy, and pain while sleeping in that crystal chamber. Those experiences had made it impossible for her to see humans as just obstacles to be removed. But the other scouts hadn't had that experience. They would see Earth as nothing more than an empty plot of land waiting to be claimed. Elena realized she was facing the biggest challenge of her life. She had to find a way to stop 3 alien weapons of mass destruction, and her only ally was the one alien who had chosen not to use her own weapon. As she finally drifted off to sleep, Elena's last thought was a simple prayer that they would find those other scouts before it was too late. She had no idea that tomorrow would bring news that would change everything once again. The hunt was about to begin. 2 weeks had passed since Elena first learned about the other alien scouts. She had spent every waking moment with Zara, helping government teams track down the remaining threat. What they discovered made Elena's stomach turn with fear. Brazil, Russia, and Antarctica, General Martinez said, pointing at red dots on the world map in their command center. 3 more crystal chambers, all showing the same energy patterns as the one you found in Chile. Elena studied the map carefully. Have any of them opened yet? The one in Brazil cracked open 5 days ago. We lost contact with the research team we sent there. The general's voice was grim. Satellite images show the jungle around the site is completely dead. Just bare earth for miles. Zara, who had been quietly listening from her chair, suddenly stood up. Her whole body had gone rigid with fear. "Vex," she whispered. "That is Vex's work. He likes to test weapons." "You know this scout?" Elena asked. "Yes. Vex was my training partner. He is—" Zara struggled with the English words. "He enjoys destruction, very loyal to mission, very dangerous." Elena felt her heart sink. If this Vex character was already awake and testing his weapon, they were running out of time fast. "We need to find him," Elena said firmly, "before he decides to test that weapon on something bigger than a jungle." The general shook his head. "Too dangerous. We should focus on evacuating major cities and preparing for the worst. Running away won't save 7 billion people," Elena shot back. "Zara knows these scouts. She knows their technology. She's our only chance." Zara stepped forward. "Elena is right. I must stop my people. It's my fault they are here." "It's not your fault," Elena said gently. "You didn't choose to be sent here." "But I choose now," Zara replied. "Choose to help humans instead of hurt them." That afternoon, Elena found herself in a military helicopter flying toward the Amazon rainforest with Zara beside her. The alien warrior had changed from her flowing armor into human clothes, though she still looked otherworldly even in jeans and a t-shirt. "Tell me about Vex," Elena said over the helicopter noise. "What should we expect?" Zara's expression darkened. "Vex believes in survival above all else. He thinks mercy is weakness. If he knows I am changed, he will try to correct me." "Correct. You? Kill me. Then complete both our missions." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the helicopter's air conditioning. She was flying into the Amazon to face an alien warrior who had already proven he was willing to use his planet-killing weapon. As they flew over the dead zone in Brazil, Elena gasped at what she saw below. What had once been lush green rainforest was now nothing but gray dirt and dead trees. The destruction stretched for miles in every direction. "He's getting stronger," Zara said quietly, "learning to control the weapon better." They landed at a military base on the edge of the dead zone. Colonel Phillips, the base commander, met them at the landing pad. The energy readings stopped moving. "An hour ago," he reported. "We think the target has found a permanent location." "Where?" Elena asked. "Old mining facility about 20 miles north. It's been abandoned for years. Perfect place to hide." As they prepared for the mission, Elena, strapped on body armor that felt heavy and uncomfortable. She wasn't a soldier, but she wasn't going to let Zara face this alone. "You should stay here," Zara said, noticing Elena's preparations. "Vex will kill you without thinking." "Then you'll have to protect me," Elena replied. "Because I'm not letting you do this alone." Zara smiled, the first real smile Elena had seen from her. "Humans very stubborn. That's one of our better qualities. The journey through the dead jungle was like walking through a nightmare. Everything was gray and lifeless. Even the air felt wrong, like breathing dust." Elena's radiation detector clicked continuously, though the levels weren't dangerous to humans. "The weapon doesn't just kill," Zara explained as they walked. "It changes the basic structure of living things, makes the land ready for Cathara plants and animals." "Your people really thought of everything," Elena said bitterly. "Desperation makes us thorough," Zara replied sadly. As they approached the old mining facility, Zara suddenly stopped. She held up her hand for silence and tilted her head, listening to something Elena couldn't hear. "He knows we're here," Zara whispered. "This is trap." "What do you mean?" Before Zara could answer, a voice echoed across the empty landscape. It spoke in the musical alien language Elena had first heard in the desert, but even without understanding. The words, she could hear the anger and disappointment in the tone. Zara's shoulders sagged. "He says I am broken, corrupted by human feelings. He offers to fix me." "What did you tell him?" "That I choose to be broken." The voice spoke again, longer this time, with what sounded like cruel amusement. "Now he says he has message from our leaders. They expected this might happen. One scout becoming emotional about the target species." Zara's voice was barely a whisper. "They sent backup plan." "What kind of backup plan?" "The other two scouts are not just here to activate their weapons. They are here to watch me. If I fail or refuse, they will activate all three weapons at same time." Zara turned to Elena with terror in her dark eyes. "Vex says they are already in position. Russia and Antarctica sites are active." Elena felt the world spinning around her. All three weapons at once? Would destroy everything. Not just humans. Every living thing on Earth. Complete sterilization. The voice called out again, and this time Elena could hear footsteps approaching through the dead trees. "He's coming," Zara said. "He wants to talk face to face before he kills us." Elena's mind raced. They had walked into exactly the trap Vex had wanted. He had used his weapon to create a dead zone, forcing them to come to him. Now he had them exactly where he wanted them, and somewhere in Russia and Antarctica, two more alien weapons were ready to turn Earth into a lifeless rock. As a tall figure emerged from the gray shadows of the dead forest, Elena realized this was no longer about stopping one alien scout. This was about preventing the complete extinction of every living thing on their planet. And they were about to face their most dangerous enemy yet. Vex stepped out from behind the dead trees like a nightmare come to life. He was taller than Zara, with the same shimmering skin, but where Zara's eyes held warmth and sadness, his were cold as winter stars. His armor was darker than Zara's, almost black, and it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Sister," he said in perfect English, his voice smooth and dangerous. "You look different. Smaller somehow." Elena felt her heart pounding as she watched the two aliens face each other. Even though they were the same species, the difference between them was like comparing a gentle rain to a hurricane. "I am not smaller," Zara replied carefully. "I am, simply more than I was before." Vex laughed, a sound that made Elena's skin crawl. "Yes, I can see that. You have been infected with their emotions, their weakness." His dark eyes shifted to Elena. "And this must be your pet human." "She is my friend," Zara said firmly. "Friend?" Vex spat the word like it tasted bad. We do not have friends, Zara. We have mission. We have duty. We have survival. Elena found her voice despite her fear. And what about mercy? What about choosing to do the right thing? Vex studied her like she was an interesting insect. The right thing? The right thing is ensuring our people live. Your species is in the way of that survival. There has to be another way, Elena said. Planets to share, solutions that don't require genocide. Genocide, Vex repeated thoughtfully. Such an ugly word for such a necessary action, he began, walking in a slow circle around them. But you misunderstand the situation completely. What do you mean? Zara asked. Vex smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Elena had ever seen. Our leaders expected this might happen, one scout becoming emotionally compromised. They planned for it. Elena felt ice form in her stomach. Planned how? You were never just scouts, sister, Vex said to Zara. You were a test. Our leaders wanted to know if exposure to human consciousness could corrupt a Kithara warrior. Could human emotions spread like a disease to our people? Zara's face went pale. That's not possible. Oh, but it is. Every moment of your touching friendship with this human has been recorded and transmitted back to our fleet. Every laugh, every tear, every moment of connection, all of it studied by our military scientists. Elena's legs felt weak. You've been watching us? The weapons are not just planet killers, dear human. They are also the most sophisticated recording and transmission devices ever created. Every second since Zara awakened has been broadcast to our leaders. Why? Zara whispered. To answer a simple question. Are humans a threat to Kithara mental stability? Can human emotions infect us and make us weak? Vex's smile grew wider. And thanks to you, sister, we now know the answer is yes. Elena realized with growing horror what this meant. That's why you're destroying everything. Not just to clear the planet, but because you think we're some kind of psychological weapon. Very good, Vex said approvingly. Humans are not just taking up space our people need. You are a species that can corrupt our very nature with your emotions and connections. You make us weak. You make us doubt. You make us choose mercy over survival. That's not weakness, Elena said desperately. That's growth. That's becoming better than you were. To you, perhaps. To us, it is a disease that threatens our species' very existence. Zara stepped forward. Vex, please. I have felt what they feel. I have experienced their joy, their love, their hope. It doesn't make us weak. It makes us complete. It makes you broken, Vex replied coldly. But I have good news. Our leaders have given me authorization to offer the humans a choice. What choice? Elena asked, though she dreaded the answer. Vex pulled out his own crystalline weapon, larger and more complex than Zara's. I will delay the activation of all 3 planet killers for exactly 24 hours. In that time, you, Elena Rodriguez, must prove that human bonds are ultimately selfish and conditional. What do you mean? Kill Zara yourself. Prove that, when faced with extinction, humans will sacrifice anyone to save themselves. Do this, and our leaders will be convinced that humans are not a psychological threat, just another selfish species like any other. We will keep you alive as a labor force rather than sterilizing the planet completely. Elena's blood turned to ice. You want me to murder my friend to prove that humans are selfish? I want you to prove that this infection of emotion and connection you have given her is meaningless when survival is at stake. Kill her, and 7 billion humans live as slaves. Refuse, and every living thing on Earth dies in 24 hours. Zara closed her eyes and lowered her head. Elena, you must do it. No, Elena said immediately. Absolutely not. You have to, Zara insisted. 7 billion lives against 1. The mathematics is simple. The mathematics doesn't matter, Elena shot back. I won't kill my friend no matter what the consequences. Vex watched this exchange with fascination. How interesting. Even when faced with the extinction of her entire species, the human refuses to sacrifice one individual. This emotional infection is stronger than we thought. He tossed his weapon to the ground at Elena's feet. The weapon is simple to use. Point and press the activation stud. One quick moment of betrayal and your species survives. Refuse and watch your world burn. Elena stared down at the crystalline device. It looked so innocent, so small. But she knew it held the power to kill Zara instantly. "Pick it up," Vex commanded. Against her better judgment, Elena reached down and lifted the weapon. It felt warm, in her hands, almost alive. She could feel power humming through it, waiting to be released. "Now point it at your friend," Vex said softly. Elena's hands shook as she raised the weapon. Zara stood perfectly still, her eyes closed, waiting for the end. "She has given you everything," Vex continued. "Her loyalty, her friendship, her protection. And now you must give her death in return. This is the true nature of human connection. Conditional love that ends when survival is threatened." Elena felt tears streaming down her face as she aimed the weapon at Zara's heart. The alien woman who had chosen to protect humanity over her own people. The being who had become her dearest friend. The person who had proven that even species as different as theirs could find common ground in compassion and understanding. "I'm sorry," Elena whispered. Vex smiled triumphantly. "Do it. Save your species. Prove that human love is just another word for selfishness." Elena's finger moved toward the activation stud. In less than a second, she would have to make the most important choice in human history. Save her friend and watch the world burn, or betray everything she believed in to save 7 billion strangers. The weapon trembled in her hands as the moment of decision arrived. Elena stood there for what felt like hours, though it was probably only seconds. The weapon felt impossibly heavy in her shaking hands. Zara remained perfectly still, waiting for death with a calmness that broke Elena's heart. "Do it," Vex urged, again. "Save your species." Elena looked into Zara's closed eyes and saw the alien's lips moving slightly. She was whispering something in her own language, probably a prayer or farewell. The sight of her friend preparing to die filled Elena with a rage she had never felt before. "You're wrong about humans," Elena said suddenly. Vex tilted his head. "What?" "You think human love is selfish. You think our connections are weak and conditional." Elena's voice grew stronger. "But you're completely wrong." Before Vex could react, Elena spun around and fired the weapon directly at the complex transmission, equipment visible through the open doors of the mining facility. The crystalline device unleashed a beam of pure energy that turned the alien technology into melting slag in seconds. "No!" Vex roared, lunging toward her, but Zara was already moving. Her eyes snapped open, and she intercepted Vex's attack, the two aliens crashing to the ground in a tangle of limbs and flowing armor. They rolled across the dead earth, fighting with speed and grace that made Elena dizzy to watch. "The equipment!" Zara shouted as she grappled with Vex. "Did you destroy the transmission link?" "I think so," Elena called back, clutching the now empty weapon. Vex managed to break free from Zara and staggered to his feet. His dark armor was cracked, and Elena could see silvery blood seeping through the damage. "You have doomed your entire species," he snarled at Elena. "The fleet is already on its way. When they arrive and find no signals from Earth, they will assume the worst and sterilize everything from orbit." "Maybe," Elena said, surprising herself with how calm she sounded. "But at least I didn't murder my friend to save myself." Vex laughed, bitterly. Noble words from a dead species. That's when Zara did something that changed everything. She pulled out her own weapon, the one Elena had first given her in the Chilean desert, and began modifying it with swift, precise movements. "What are you doing?" Elena asked. "Something I should have done weeks ago," Zara replied without looking up from her work. "I'm going to show my people what I learned from humans." "The transmission equipment is destroyed," Vex said mockingly. "You cannot send anything to the fleet." "Not to the fleet," Zara said quietly. "To the scouts in Russia and Antarctica. Their weapons are still connected to the network." Elena watched in fascination as Zara's fingers flew over the crystalline device, reconfiguring its internal structure. "What kind of message are you sending?" "Not a message, an experience." Zara's eyes met Elena's. "Everything I felt while connected to human consciousness during my stasis, every dream, every emotion, every moment of connection and love and hope that changed who I am." Vex's expression shifted from mockery to horror. "You cannot. The contamination will spread." "That's exactly what I'm hoping for," Zara said. She finished her modifications and held up the transformed weapon. Instead of the deadly device it had been, it now pulsed with warm, gentle light. "Elena, I need you to touch the weapon while I activate it." "Why?" "Because the transmission needs to carry not just my experiences, but yours too. Human emotions, from a human source. Our people need to feel what you felt when you chose friendship over survival." Elena reached out and placed her hand on the warm crystal. The moment she made contact, she felt a rush of sensations that weren't her own. She experienced Zara's memories of the first time she had felt human love through the stasis dreams. She felt the aliens' confusion and wonder at emotions she had never experienced before. But more than that, Elena felt her own emotions amplified and reflected back through Zara's consciousness. Her love for her friend, her determination to protect, the innocent, her belief that cooperation was stronger than conflict, all of it flowed through the modified weapon. "Now," Zara whispered, and activated the device. The weapon didn't fire a destructive beam this time. Instead, it sent out a pulse of pure emotional energy that Elena could somehow sense traveling across the world toward the other two alien sites. In that pulse was everything that had made Zara choose mercy over mission, and everything that had made Elena choose friendship over species survival. Vex fell to his knees as the transmission hit him too. His cold expression cracked, and for the first time, Elena saw confusion and pain in his dark eyes. What is this feeling?" he whispered. "Compassion," Elena said gently. "It's what happens when you truly understand someone else's heart." 6 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the newly built First Contact Center in Geneva, watching as human and Kythera engineers worked side by side on a massive project. The aliens had arrived not as conquerors, but as refugees, seeking help and offering cooperation. The transmission Zara had sent had spread through the Kythera fleet like wildfire. Experiencing human emotions secondhand had fundamentally changed how the aliens saw both themselves and humanity. Many had chosen to approach Earth as partners rather than conquerors. "You're thinking very loudly," Zara said, joining Elena at the window. Her friend now wore human clothes most of the time, though she still moved with that otherworldly grace. "Just thinking about how different things could have been," Elena replied. "If you had activated that first weapon in the desert, if I had chosen to, but you didn't. That's what matters." Elena watched as a group of human children played with young Kythera in the garden below. The alien children looked just like smaller versions of their parents, all grace and shimmering skin. "What about Vex? Is he adjusting?" Zara nodded toward another part of the complex. "He works in the agricultural division now. Turns out he has a talent for growing things instead of destroying them. The emotional transmission affected him deeply." "And your home world?" The terraforming ships arrived last month. With human technology and Kythera science working together, we think we can restore our planet's atmosphere. It will take decades, but it's possible now. Elena smiled. So both species get to survive. More than survive, we get to grow, together. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the impossible sight of two species learning to share the same world. Finally, Elena spoke up. You know what the strangest part is? What? That weapon you dropped in the desert. The one you said you couldn't use. I spent so long thinking it was some kind of advanced alien technology. But the real weapon was something much simpler. What do you mean? Elena turned to look at her friend. Trust. The weapon you gave me that first night was trust itself. Trust that I would make the right choice. Trust that humans could change. Trust that there was another way. Zara smiled, the same warm expression that had convinced Elena weeks ago that not all aliens were enemies. Perhaps trust is the most powerful weapon any species can possess. As the sun set over the mountains surrounding Geneva, Elena realized that the story that began with a mysterious discovery in the Chilean desert had become something beautiful. Two species, both facing extinction in their own ways, had found salvation not through conquest or destruction, but through the simple act of choosing to trust each other. The weapon had been returned, but instead of bringing death, it had brought hope. And that, Elena thought, was the most unthinkable outcome of all.